Boom! Damn, that was like we went live immediately.
Nice.
What's up, Jennifer
Hello,
Lacey?
how are you?
Good morning. I am good, super awesome, excited for today's
Yo, we
conversation.
got a pretty deep conversation today.
I know. I'm eager to see uh what people are going to share and what people
Yes.
are going to ask, right? Because I
It can
think
go
that's
all over. Like this can take people different places, this conversation.
yes. My expectation is that we get some vulnerable conversation, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
also some like good practices in terms of how to deal with our stuff because we're all dealing with different stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, folks out there in the Omniverse, if you're there, let us know where you're at. Where you calling in for? Oh, we got our first one, Mr.
Okay.
Jim.
He's usually busy with grandkids, so I'm glad you're here
Yeah.
today, Jim.
How you doing, Mr. Jim? Wonder if he's out on the deck, taking it easy, drinking some coffee.
Yes.
Mm. So have you recovered from our little experience on Thursday, Jen?
Oh my gosh. I have, but it
Yeah.
was good. It was good. I think we do a lot of stuff together. Like
Yeah.
I mean, we're in different places and we do a lot of live streams and things like that. But I think we are what we realized when we were planning for that event was we have not co-facilitated training before.
Yeah.
And it was like we didn't realize it because we spent a lot of time doing other things, but and it was how easy it was, I think, was my big takeaway of just it was not, there was no stress, no, not worried about anything. We just kind of went with the flow. And it was I'm going to say an in-person live stream a little bit because we kind of bounced back and
Yeah.
forth
Yeah.
and we had some interaction with the crowd. I mean, it was very comfortable.
Totally. And the group was amazing. Like they
Yes.
brought the energy. They had great questions. It was a good time. I was
Yes.
expecting to be in way more trouble than I actually was in. So I'm gonna count it as a win.
Yes, I'm going to count it as a win too.
So we
Good
got
morning,
Mr.
Ron.
Ron Stein. What's up, Ron? How you doing? Coming in from South Florida. Oh, so quick reminder. Look, the chief marketeer is here. Coming in from Steamy. I guess it's warming up over there. Yep. Better keeping it together. Um, if you're coming in from the LinkedIn, I think we kind of isolated part of the problem is if you're an Android user, your comments don't make it through the back end to the StreamYard so that we can like give you the love and attention we want to. So just for clarity, we're not ignoring you. Please leave your comments. We want to interact with you. We will be able to see them after the live, like post, and we'll come back and interact. But the main point is we love you, especially the lurkers, right? If you're watching and you show up regularly and you never comment, that's okay. Keep on coming back because
Yes.
it helps, right? It helps. Look at that. You know this.
I do. Yes.
It's a
Good
good
morning, Meg.
morning.
She's up early.
Yeah, she's out driving.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
don't be leaving comments if you're driving, girl. Come on, use your Plod. So she recommended the Plod AI thing,
Yes.
and you got it. What do you think? So have you been able?
Well, I haven't used it yet. I mean, well, okay. I'm gonna lie. I'm using it right now, so I'm gonna see how it works.
Oh, see what kind of
So
notes it
like to
takes.
see that. So yeah. So anyway, Megan, I've been experimenting with it, but okay. This is a side note. This is not what we're talking about today. But we do a lot of meetings with like retrospectives of things and quality and all that. And so I'm in those meetings going, man, if I just had something capturing all this and then being able to spit out takeaways and high level, here's the big things we talked about. Like, how cool would that be? And that was like my trigger of, okay, I could use this in multiple places. So
Totally.
yes.
Yeah, I need to get mine ordered. Mr. Matt, how you doing, Matt? Good morning. And then we got ultra superstar, Dr. G.
Come on, international. She's been like traveling, like she is a rock star. So good morning. Thank you for being with us, Dr. G.
We got a lot of people coming in from West Coast, 6 a.m. over there. Like, where's our Central and East Coast?
We changed them, we tricked them, and then we got Steve on the other coast.
Oh man. Okay, Jen. So Megan, she's not driving yet. She's about to be driving. Awesome. Yes. Good morning. Non-comment.
No comment, Megan. Now you're labeled.
So we're going to be talking about how your coping mechanisms are breaking you. And
Yes.
y'all already know, Tribe out there, the questions and thoughts that you contribute to the conversation will inform the actual path that we're going to go down. But before we get into like the nuts and bolts of what the conversation is going to be, we have some little rules. Yeah, Jen?
Yes. Well, not so much rules, but I do want to go back to your if you're on an Android and you're not seeing your comments, you have a couple of options if you want them to be on here. So you could go to YouTube, and then YouTube seems to come through pretty well, or you can go on your computer. And if you're watching us on either of those, because I'm an Android user, so I know how to work around some of these things. You can go on both of those, and then your comments will come through live versus after the fact. But if you're on their phone, Android, we'll just see them afterwards. And so, yes, if you are out there and this is your not just your first time, if it's your first time lurking and you don't want to type, we understand that. But if you've been on here a while and you've been listening, or you're popping in today and you want to engage in this conversation, we want to know that it's your first time putting fingers to keyboard or putting your thumbs on your phone and joining the conversation, because one, we want your contribution. And two, we have an amazing no BS tribe that as soon as we get new people in, they will just swamp you and they will surround you and bring you in and let you know that you are cared for and that you are part of who we are. And we can't do that unless we know that. And so I ask if you'll put a blue heart. You can right click, go to emojis, put the blue heart, write blue heart. Let us know, because then our tribe members can then connect with you. And if you're out there posting things, we will make sure that we contribute to that and we will support you. But we want to make sure we know that.
Yeah, so blue heart if you're new, or if you just want attention, throw the blue heart.
I mean, truth, because we have a lot of people like that too. Jesse will probably have lots of blue hearts today.
I love it. Okay, so what to tell us about? Wait, we got one. Jumper.
Oh yes.
Oh, Mood, how you doing, my
Yes.
friend?
Good morning.
It has been a long time. Yes, yeah, glad you're doing well, my friend. Blue heart. So y'all already know. Attack, go follow, do the follow and all the things.
Yes.
Mood is a super awesome dude. Thank you, man. I'm glad to know you're well. And so this idea of coping mechanisms, like, are they breaking you? Where did this all come from, Miss Jennifer Lacey?
Okay, I'm gonna start this, but then you're gonna get to finish it. So I think we talk a lot. You and I talk a lot just about things going on in our lives, and we are around a lot of people in construction and outside of construction that deal with stress different ways and deal with things in their life different ways. And there's been some, personal things that I've dealt with over the last couple of months that are just the way people deal with, whether it's an addiction or a choice, the way people deal with things, can harm other people. So there's that piece, and can harm the people around them. But then there's those people. Jesse, isn't tomorrow like a really big celebration?
No, Thursday. I'm sorry, Monday. I think
Monday. I thought it was tomorrow, but that's okay. What is Monday?
So tomorrow or Monday, whichever day it is I will be celebrating 8 years of sobriety.
Correct. And so that's amazing. And so you, in 8 years, obviously have got some ways to got some countermeasures in place on if there's things going on, I've got to be able to adjust. And sometimes those countermeasures and the way that we structure our life to maybe overcome some addictions can also harm things. And so that's how we started talking. And then it kind of went into, okay, what can we dig into today? So you take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, I think the conversation you and I were having is about stuff, right? And when I think about, we'll say the countermeasure, the easiest one for me to use is like marathon training. Oh, look, we got Nick. She says, woohoo.
Jesse.
Yes. Thank you, Nick. Yeah. 8 years. Like, that's pretty awesome. Anyhow, I want to make sure, I want to be clear with folks that I'm not saying that your coping mechanisms are addictions. Like, I don't want to get people confused, because that's not what we're saying. What I'm saying is our coping mechanism, or what I want to explore, is the times that the way we cope with things betray us. Can they become addictions? Sure. But more specifically, like, what are the early indicators? When do I know that I'm on the slope, like the little slippery slope of getting into, like, the coping mechanism that served me starts to betray me, right? When does it start stealing joy and happiness from me? Does that make sense, Jen?
No, it does. And it's going to be good, because those are things that in our minds, we label them as good. So if I'm doing more of these things, then I'm doing good things.
Yes.
And that's when there's that slope of, when does that kind of all of a sudden become maybe another addiction, or maybe, you're filling one thing with another, but also then, like, it maybe the way we're doing it, how we're engaging with it, what does that look like? Then does it become another kind of something that's controlling us, or that we are maybe relying on a little too much?
Yes, exactly right. So for me, like, the super, super easy example is work, right? So
Yes.
actually, let's get like some thumbs up in the comments.
Yes.
Ever used work as your coping mechanism, right? To deal or just disconnect from all the drama of your life or whatever it is. Because I have, right? Like,
Yes.
and like, it's sneaky because I'm working, I'm doing my job, I'm making stuff happen. But then it got to a point where, like, I'd be in a situation with my mom or my brothers or, family, and it's like, man, I gotta go. I gotta go work on something. And so it became like it was a place of refuge. Like, I could go rest and
Refuge.
hide there.
Yes, that's
And
a
then
good
I
word.
hide all the time from all my reality that I'm not dealing with. But I'm telling myself that I'm doing something productive. And the things, like, people at work are like, man, you're so dedicated. You work so hard. Blah, 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 blah. So I'm getting all this positive reinforcement in doing something that's not bad, except that it's causing me to neglect other parts of myself and other parts of my life.
Yes.
What do you think, Jen?
100%. Well, it's that you said it. It's like, where do we go for refuge? And sometimes we need that. We need we need some peace. We need some stability. We need a place to be able to reset. But does that refuge then become a place that you don't want to leave?
Yeah. Like, you ever, oh, look, we got Miss Nick says thumbs up. She knows. All right. Thank you, Nick. Do you ever find yourself in that type of situation, Jen?
A lot. And it's not fair, because for me, I don't like these conversations sometimes, but for refuge for me is work, absolutely, all the time. Like, work is always an easy default one, because I always have it. I'm never gonna be like, okay, I've got everything done over here, now I can go over here. I can completely bury myself in work and be justified, because I cannot take vacation days. I cannot, take off to go do something that's important when I can't. Like, I have permission to. And that's, I think, for me, that's when I know that I'm not making the right choices. When I have permission to do things, but I'm still choosing to be in this state of refuge, because whether I'm choosing not to deal with it or I'm not prioritizing it. And those are the struggles that I'm aware of, and I have to, like, intentionally make a different choice sometimes, because it's easier, it's more comfortable for me to be in this workplace where I can bury myself and, and be busy and all that stuff, and then not deal with these things that are a little bit harder to deal with and maybe are going to push me a little bit. And also, and they may not feel very good.
Okay. So let's come back to that. Mr. Matt says workaholics run towards the work because it gets us back to a place of control. Mr. Matt.
Oh, Matt, we didn't even talk ahead of time. What is going on here?
So, Jen, what do you think about that C word?
So, Jesse, we talk a lot. So I'm not going to say I don't have external addictions, because I don't know if that's the right word, and you can help me guide through this, but yeah. I don't, like, I don't go out and spend my money on things, and I don't feel like there's something that I need to have all the time except control. And so that is what I label as an addictive thing for me, that over the course of my life, not just like now, but I've recognized it, and I am working towards like, how do I release it? How do I delegate it? How do I let go of things and not let it be the most important thing? And I'm in the middle of like that progress. So I'm not there. And that is the letting go of control, or needing the control. I've realized throughout my life has gotten me into a place of security. It has given me a sense of security that, like, I know what's next. And throughout my life, there's been times where I've needed that. That's been the thing that's grounded me and helped me know, like, the world's not going to end. Everything's going to be okay. But I'm not in that place anymore. Like, I'm pretty okay. If something crazy happens today, things are going to be okay. Like, I know that, and I believe that, but I still find myself in this, getting pulled into conversations, specifically with my 13-year-old daughter. Like,
Mhm.
let me say that out loud. My 13-year-old daughter, that is probably where I get sucked into the most conversations, where I have to then exert my control, and it's not even necessary, and it never helps the conversation.
Oh, this is
Ever,
so good.
ever.
So there's a couple of things, right? Um, and I threw this up there, right? So here's the question to the tribe out there: is controlling your life? Right? Because, like Matt said, right, workaholics, guilty, right? I'm a member there also. We run towards work because it gives us back to a place of control. We feel like we can. It's a predictable situation. It's a predictable environment. We don't have to anticipate people's feelings or whatever. We just do the job, and it's like, what the outcomes are. But in our pursuit of control, it kind of takes us over. Now, one important thing that you just pointed to that I think is really important for everybody, and in terms of like my experience with addiction and my we'll say my daily freaking triumphs of not drinking for, what did Steve did the math, 2,920 days. All right, thank you. Is you talked about you and your daughter, and that's something, not all the time, but there's a high likelihood that in those interactions you're going to choose a behavior that betrays you.
Yes,
Right.
100%.
And so for me, we'll use one example. When I was dating or married or whatever, I knew that if there was an argument, I was going to go drink. Right. But because you made me mad. Which is like the way I coped with it to de-escalate the situation and all that was, we're fighting, arguing, bickering, whatever it is. I'm just going to leave so we don't have the argument. But not only did I leave, I went and drank. And then, that's a whole other situation there. But the way I coped with the friction here, it was predictable that I was going to go do X, and X was not going to serve me well. So, and we like nowadays, everybody uses the word trigger. You trigger like it's somebody else's fault. Triggers are important when we use them, or rather are valuable when we use them to inform us of how to respond differently to the trigger. Not so that Alex can stop being a 13-year-old. It's so that Jennifer can say, bite your tongue, Dad, chill out. What do you think about that, Jen?
No, 100%. And you got my brain thinking about too, how many times do we create the situation that then drives us to the addiction?
That's the thing, right? I know my answer, but I'll ask you. Like, you already know, when there's times when you and Alex are interacting, it turns into a nuclear meltdown.
Yes.
Do you instigate that?
You and I have had this conversation. So I don't go, I know in my heart, I don't go in going, I'm about to attack or I'm about to take control of this. I know it's a reaction. It's a gut reaction where I'll say something or I'll make a comment. And, because the situation, I've done it at that moment, I know, and I get to make a choice.
Yep.
At that moment when it comes out of my mouth or I've responded, my tone is different than it should be because of the, we're somewhere and I'm escalated, whatever it is. In that moment, as soon as I realize, oh crap, like I just said this and I'm looking at her reaction, I'm watching what's about to happen. I get to make a choice at that point. It's
Yes.
do I seize control and do I command, the respect and everything else in this room because I'm who I am. I'm your mom, I'm whatever it is. Or do I stop and go, oh shit, like I need to de-escalate this.
Yep.
And how do I do it? And I'm absolutely aware of those moments. Do I seize them the way that I should? Absolutely not. Am I doing better at seizing more moments that end up in a better place? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll answer, like, on my end, there were times that I instigated fights on purpose. Right. I'm like, I'm going to go. I need to go. And I would do something to argue so that I could blame you for me going and drinking, or not blame you, but blame other people. And so and now I don't know that I had that plan.
Okay.
Right. Like, so that's kind of the slippery part. Is, again, we're on a razor's
Yeah,
edge.
We are.
The topic that we're talking about. Like, it's not like I knew in my playbook, when I want to go hang out with the guys and drink beer and slam shots, I'm going to start an argument. That wasn't like what was happening in my head. I would feel some kind of way, and then it's like, pick argument. I'm going to go drink. So it was this like subconscious thing I did that gave me an excuse to feel good about me destroying myself. Now, in my case, it was very self-destructive. After an extended, like after years and years of me drinking, because I know there was a period of time, it was a short period of time, and it was a long, long time ago, that I drank to take the edge off, that I had a couple of beers to relax. And that, like, I did. That was the point, right? All right. I just did it to have a good time. And then it turned into something monstrous that like I just can't deal with. And so that's not only true of alcohol consumption, right? It's true of work. It's true of my marathon training. There's a lot of things that I've done to cope and deal with things that end up causing me to neglect the rest of my life. And I think that's the important part when about what we're talking about. It's not necessarily being stuck in addiction. What we're playing with here is, what are the things that we do that served us but no longer serve us, or on the verge of causing damage and pain, or maybe more delicately, that are going to steal or are stealing joy from our life.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Come on.
And so that I like that whole, like, what are those things? Jesse, how do we become aware of those things?
So, one, you gave an example, right? Like, there's a trigger and you see it. I mean, I'll answer that two ways. And while I'm answering that, I want to ask the tribe, have your coping mechanisms betrayed you? Right? Because we got some good comments coming in, and we'll hit them here in a bit. Oh, wait, we got a blue heart.
I know, and they've been a lurker, and they're just and they're here, and I need to know who they are.
Oh, I can't see. Well, so folks out there,
let us know if you're out there and you see it on LinkedIn. Let us know who this is, because we want to give them some love.
Yeah, and so LinkedIn user, so for anybody, if you're new here, whenever it comes up and does this LinkedIn user thing, it's a security setting, but it's okay, because we'll be able to do some investigation and find you afterwards.
Yes.
But thank you so much for jumping in. That is exciting. So question to the tribe is, have your coping mechanisms betrayed you? And you asked, what did you ask me? Like, what are the indicators?
How do you become aware?
Yep. So let me say it this way, because this is more fun, I think more useful. There was a time, the way, it's one of my things, right? If you ignore the whispers, you will cause them to scream.
Mhm.
And so there was a period of time in my life that the only way I knew my coping mechanism was betraying me is because I had handcuffs and I was in the back of a damn police car again. My coping mechanism was betraying me way over here, and I didn't see it until here.
Those
Now,
were hard lessons.
yeah, but along the way, there were plenty of indicators, signals that said, "Hey, fool, you need to buckle down. You're slipping, right?"
Mhm.
And so that's kind of like unmitigated, right? I'm just kind of going through the motions. Now I know it doesn't matter what. Again, I've used marathon training a lot because for a long period, I'll say about 8 years of my life, that's what I did.
Mhm.
And it took a lot of time, a lot of energy, and I neglected my relationships. Now, can I do marathon training and still be healthy? Yes. And when I say healthy, I don't mean like physically healthy. I mean having healthy relationships, having healthy relationship with myself and my problems. Da, 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 da. But the early indicators for me that I'm getting off track
Mhm.
are very easy. Dishes start piling up, laundry's piled up, the yard's a mess, the truck hasn't been washed or cleaned, like all the little responsibility. And here's the awesome thing, and I think this is actionable for anybody, is it's like you've heard of the locus of control, locus or circle of influence, and all of these things. The indicators for me start really tight in only the area that I can see. Nobody else can see my dishes. Nobody else can see my laundry, right? Nobody else cares about my yard or my truck.
Right.
But those things I start neglecting them. And those are the indicators. Like, okay, the dishes are moldy. I got science experiments in the refrigerator. I'm sifting through clothes. Like I'm not washing them anymore. The way I know they're clean or not is the sniff test.
And sometimes the sniff test doesn't work and you still wear them, which is so gross.
Hey, I'm trying to reduce my impact on my carbon footprint here.
No.
Now, I know those signals because of lots and lots of reps of doing it wrong, right? And having the negative outcomes that I've experienced. And so I let those signals inform me to do a check, a self-assessment. Okay, where am I off track because I'm letting things fall apart? Now, if I continue to ignore those early signals of like my own personal maintenance, what starts the next round or the next layer becomes my relationship with my people, the people I care about, my friends, my family, workers, etc. Those things start getting rocky and crumbly because I'm not maintaining them. And then it expands from there, whatever those things are. And so, I mean, the reason I share that is because I want people to think about those things, right? Like whatever your coping mechanism is, and again, the questions out there is, have your coping mechanisms betrayed you? Is it hanging out with friends? Is it having a drink? Is it gripping into control? Like, what is that? And has it ever gotten you in trouble or gotten you sideways or produced an outcome that is less than what it was supposed to produce? What do you think, Jen?
So yes, and this is hard. This is so hard because this is a lot of things I've been working on and a lot of things that are right in front of my face a lot. And like I can easily just dismiss them. It's so easy to just go, oh, it's that, or it's that person, or that's because of this. And that makes it easier for me to justify, whatever the choices I'm making. But you said where you start to notice that time where you start to notice things that are betraying you. And for me, I don't like this. For me, it even starts more inside of me.
Ooh.
So for me, what I realize when you call them, I don't remember what you call them, but I call them either inflection points or data points or those little
Yep.
things that you're capturing and you're like, ooh, there's another one. Ooh, there's another one. And so for me, my brain rarely stops. Jesse knows this.
Yep.
Like, it's always going. And so if something is irritating me or aggravating me or frustrating me, in that moment, I can have enough self-control to not react to it. That doesn't stop anything from happening in my head. Everything is going on in my head, whether I responded to it or not, whether I reacted to the situation. I'm in my head playing every scenario of what should have happened, could have happened, what they should have done, all these things. And then two things happen. I either get to a point of like, okay, I've worked through this and I'm in a better place and now we're good. Or it's escalated me because now all these things in my mind should have happened, whatever. And then when I go and engage, in my mind, all of these conversations have happened and now I'm about to interact with somebody. That never ends well. Because I'm now at this place that we've had a whole conversation about what made me angry, mad, frustrated. And now I'm coming at them with the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, all the things that now I'm frustrated. And they got me when something happened and I went, I need to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's to me, I'm having to become more and more aware of, is that a good thing for me to do to help me get to a better place? Or is it betraying me because now I'm coming into the situation in a heightened place? Give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna share. Matt gave us a beautiful comment, right? These coping, they're necessary for survival. Integrating the mechanisms are necessary for success. Agreed. And they can betray us,
Yes.
right? So your we'll say your strategy of saying, time out, I need to go. The thinking, what I heard is, okay, I need to separate from myself the situation because I'm elevated. I'm going to say something I regret, whatever. I need to go calm down. Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense. But then what I heard you say is, when you walk away, you're not calming down. You're ramping up for a freaking argument. Did I hear that right?
Well, I mean, it is. And sometimes it works. Like, I can get away and it's not that big a deal.
Yep.
Just as many times, because I leave doesn't stop the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, right? Like, if I need some space to go breathe and like decompress or de-escalate, that's a valuable practice. But if I contort it and twist it into, okay, I'm going to go and get ammunition and run 300 million scenarios so that I can come back and put this son of a gun out. Yes. It's not serving. Like, unless what you're trying to do is take them out, then take them out.
Yes. Like, if I'm coming back and I've got my ammo, I'm armed, I've got everything. I'm just like, okay, I'm ready now. Let's go. Like, like, what?
Right. And so, I mean, here's the thing, and I have to do this a lot in my own head, right? Because I do the same thing. Right? I'm obsessively thinking about stuff all the time, running a mazillion scenarios. While we're having a conversation, I had 30 other conversations like that. You and I don't think we're the only ones there that are in that.
But it also helps us with what we do because we both are going there together, but it also is not good for other things.
Yes. Or it's like I see these jokes on the TikTok where the wife is mad at the husband because he cheated on her in her dream.
Yes.
Right? Like,
it's like coming back and having a conversation with someone where they were not, all the stuff that is in my head and all the back and forth we had back and forth. And now I'm coming back going, I'm about to get you. And they're just like, what just happened?
What happened? What did I do? I didn't do anything, but because you ran these scenarios in your head.
But that's helped me, Jesse. That's helped me in the past of running through scenarios and going, okay, here's worst case scenario. Here's where I contributed. So like, it's been beneficial for me.
Yeah. So consider the conditions.
Yes.
Okay. Meaning, when it has been beneficial for you, what were the conditions? Yeah. What was the situation? When it has betrayed you, what were the conditions? What was the situation, right? Well, because we're human, we want to plug and play. Oh, this thing worked over here, copy, paste, put it here. That's not how things work. Like, that's how we get ourselves in trouble. And so, so in that, if you are anything like Jennifer and I and run a bazillion scenarios and, all of that, I have to tell myself, wait a minute, how do I know? Like, I've decided that you judge me in this manner, but how do I know? Who's the person that actually knows? Not me, the person. And so it's tough, but when I get in that space, a perfect example, back when I had like a real job, I really believed that my boss or one of my bosses thought I was a scrub. Like I just felt like he was tolerating me, I felt like I was disappointing and underperforming all the time. Every time I was around him, I felt super insecure, and I would be awkward because like I want to impress him, but I'm also pissed because he doesn't like me. And but there's really no proof that he doesn't like it's all imaginary. It's all in Jesse land right now. And I could have continued down that path because I had multiple times in my career. Like, come on, people out there in the tribe, have you ever just assumed that your boss thought you sucked and never verified that, right? Because they didn't give you feedback or because of you didn't get the special assignment or whatever, but you don't ask. And so I was torturing myself, running myself through this grinder. And finally I said, well, wait a minute, just go ask them. And I did. I said, hey, I need to talk to you. Remember, we were in Denver. And I said, look, and I told him straight out, I said, look, man, you haven't done anything that indicates this, but this is what I feel and what I think. I said, I feel inadequate. I feel like I'm underperforming, and I feel like I let you down all the time. Again, it's not because of anything that you've said or done. This is how I feel, and I need to know, like, how far off base am I? Mm-hmm. And he's like, bro, like, no, like, not at all. It was exactly the opposite and all these other things. But I had to have that conversation. And so why is that relevant, or how is that relevant? It's relevant to what you and I are just talking about, or when we go and run the scenarios, which one of them is probably going to be true. And that's why we do it, because it's helped us in the past. But how the hell do you find out? Instead of assigning all the crap that you ran through your head, go ask. Most of the time, there's been a couple of times where I've said, hey, this, they're like, yeah, I don't like you. Like, ouch. But now I know for sure. But that's the rarity. The majority of the time, things are fine, but I've made it bad in my head.
So you said something, Jesse, and I want to hone in on it, because you've said this before in other situations, and I'm starting to try to use it. This tool. You said, what is true? And so there's things that we've talked about when you're in a situation like that, as you're dealing with it, and you have to stop and go, but what is also true? Yes. Or what is, and it's a tool. And so I want you to explain it in a minute, because I want to give the example and then kind of talk about where does that come from and why is that a tool? How can that help us? But my daughter, she has diagnosed anxiety, diagnosed. Mm-hmm. The daughter that I'm willing to go and get into a battle with and get elevated and push her because I want to be right. What is also true is some of it she doesn't have control over. Like when I can like also make those statements to myself, it helps me stop and be able to like reevaluate, stabilize, and not keep going. So can you dig into a little bit of like just that statement and how that can help sometimes reset some things?
Yeah, but we got some good stuff coming in the
comments. Yes, I know. I keep seeing them over there.
We'll come back to what could also be true, because that's a huge thing. And maybe it'll shift the energy of the conversation in a good way.
Yes.
So gotta give love to our sister up in the NYC, Miss Gloria. How you doing, girl? She says, where is it? There it is. She says, so good, Jesse. As leaders, we need to stop.
We need to speak up
versus allowing team members to assume how we feel about them from our day-to-day demeanor. I think that like totally right. As a leader, it's funny because I think a lot of folks, we want to be in a leadership position for a lot of reasons. We know what it's like to not be recognized and to be hungry for feedback. And then we become a leader, and what do? The same shit. And so it like Gloria said, it can be as easy as letting people know what you appreciate about them.
Mhm.
Every time, like, find excuses to tell them what you appreciate about them. That'll fill that need, that gap of,
Yes,
do they think I'm so nobody like all, because we go there,
we
which
do.
ties us back to what could also be true, but we'll come back to that. Mr. Heath says, what's up, Heath? Glad you're here, my man. Says developing healthy coping mechanisms is the key. Yes. Realizing you're placing yourself in unhealthy situations is the hardest reality, because they usually feel good short term.
You get that high, that dopamine that you get, which we know addictions do the same thing, but and he just like made the correlation of, just like those addictions give us those high, those coping mechanisms could short term give us that, yeah, I'm in control, I got it back, I'm good. Like, yes.
Yes. And then they don't serve you anymore.
Yes.
And I think that's the critical point. Like, I don't know what the answer is to protect yourself from your coping
Please,
mechanism,
somebody has it, please. I
right?
need.
Like, I accept that. I mean, actually, here's what I'd like. My gut tells me that a bunch of people don't even think of it in those terms. We
Yeah,
just,
no, right.
right. So, like, let's start thinking about it. And so here's the question to the tribe. If you know how to, like, what is your cheat code? What do you do to stay out of the quicksand, or how do you pull yourself out of the quicksand? Meaning, when that coping mechanism you're doing is causing you problems, how do you get out of it? I mean, yeah, I've
Yes, when
said
you
a couple of
feel yourself being sucked into the vortex, what do you do?
um, Miss Yesenia, oh my goodness, she's probably running 20 miles right now, as she's
Yeah, I'm
joining
sure.
in.
Yes,
She
I get to hang
said,
out with her next week. Anyway, breakfast next week.
Yesenia says the subject is difficult, although it almost never works out that way. We have a tendency to live in our own bubbles. I think there's a key there, to live in our own bubbles and create the story the way we imagine it will go, usually negatively. Worst case scenario, this could lead us to trying to control a situation, and we waste the time and energy instead of letting it play out just the way it will. How does that land with you, Jennifer Lee?
Whatever, Yesenia. You're speaking straight to my heart right now. Like, I know, and Jesse, it's that piece of, I know. Like,
Yes.
and that's in what you've helped me reframe. Like, I know it's okay, but what is also true? Like, that's to me the change I've made in my head, to not just go, I know this, I know I should do this, I know I should not do this. Like, that was the way I was responding, and also it was coming out in my reactions to people.
Yep.
So now it's like, I feel it, but what is also true is this, and that makes it based on facts, which then is a lot easier to have a conversation with someone that maybe is not in a great space, and then we can find commonality in that, what is also true.
100%. So there's some more comments here that, like,
Yeah,
they're
yes,
coming
no, absolutely.
together.
Yes.
Nick says she I think we get in our head too much, and that causes us to walk into situations with invalidated emotions, right?
100%.
100%. Matt also said the tone could also be different because it's an unhealed version of yourself speaking out in the fight or the flight scenario.
I
What do
mean,
you think
that
about
part.
that one? This is getting good. And then Yesenia, okay, now I'm finally gonna answer the
Okay.
question. Yesenia says, I've also been in a similar situation with their boss. And wow, when we finally had a conversation, it was the complete opposite of what I thought. Don't ever assume, talk it out. We are our biggest critics, which takes us back to the question. Thank you, Yesenia, and everybody, for like sharing these like vulnerable stuff. This is heavy, serious stuff.
Yes.
What could also be true is exactly that. Like, so we talked I think somebody mentioned about being in your own bubble, right? Having these thoughts in your head. They may be true, they may not be true, but there's one way to verify it. And so in I'm going to give two scenarios. One is, I think, the bigger, more profound one. One scenario is my boss, I think he thinks I suck, and and I can continue living in that and assume that I suck based on his performance without ever verifying that. But what could also be true, right? What could also be true is that I'm doing a great job. And because I'm doing such a great job, he leaves me alone, or I'm innovative and I leverage the autonomy that I have in such a way that he doesn't want to disrupt that, or she doesn't want to disrupt that. So they kind of let it go, leave a good thing alone. That could also be true.
Yes.
But you got to find out. And so in that scenario, when we're filling in the blanks for other people, the asking the question of what could also be true is important, because it gets us off center to find out.
Yes.
It gives us courage to find out. Now, where I think it's most profound and has like the biggest, I'll say it this way, has contributed to the massive, enormous growth that I've had in the last 2 years, and the ways that I'm able to contribute and share my gifts and talents, is in terms of that crazy idea that I have, that thought, right? That little project I want to kick off, or the collaboration that's spinning around in my head. Because initially the first thought is always, how is it going to suck?
Yeah.
It's going to fail. Nobody's going to like it. Nobody's going to show up. No, like, right. Like
Pretty much everything we've done, Jesse. Yes. All of that.
And so, and I think that this is a human thing, coping mechanism, right? Matt mentioned earlier, we do these things to keep us safe and they're healthy. But, and not a yes and, this is a but. But if I always, rather, my coping mechanism to stay healthy and safe can also keep me small.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It can also stunt my growth. It can also limit my capacity to serve others, because right out of the gate, what I'm going to get is, what if it blows up? What if nobody cares? What if it costs you money? What if? Yeah, there's a lot of evidence over here that I created that exists only in my head to stay where I'm at. That's safe. It's safe, but I'm not growing. And so when I have that list, because I have it all the time, may not look like it, but I do get that list of, oh, and I say, yes. And what could also be true?
Yes.
It could also be amazing. It could also be transformative. It could also cause me to learn. Da, 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 da. So now I have 2 columns of evidence, and they're not even evidence, right? I have 2 columns of theories, and the only way to prove them is to do the damn thing. And so that's what I mean by what could also be true. And that's how I leverage it to, like, not get stuck in my bubble of comfort. What do you think, Jen?
100%. And mine is not so much what could also be true, what is also true. Because for me, when I'm grounded in facts, it helps me, again, get off center, but also go, well, if that's true too, then this. And I want to give an example of, like, the cultivation crew, are the thing we've just launched, and it went well. It went amazing last month. But the way that started is, again, one more thing of us going, we got this idea, we think it's going to be amazing, and whatever. It started from you asking a group of people what's missing, what else could be out there that could help you. So their feedback was true. It was not what could be true. The feedback you got was, this is what I need. And then when we created something, like, yes, it could have gone 1,000 different directions, but what was true was people were asking for it.
Yes.
And so that made it, those are the things of what is also true. So for me, it's when I find the data and the facts piece of it, like, am I doing a good job? Am I, does my boss think that I am, I'm hitting all my marks? Okay. What is also true is I had these things and I've hit them all.
Yeah.
I've accomplished this. I rolled this out. I took care of this. Those are things that are also true. So, like, Jennifer, get out of your damn head.
Get out of your head. For me, it's exactly that. Get out of your head. Go find out.
Yeah.
Which, go see, right? That's a principle that we talk about every now and then.
Yes. Okay.
So we got our sister Maria says,
good morning.
For folks with CPTSD, your brain gets addicted to those unhealthy patterns. So when you go to break it, you also have to fight the addiction of choosing the unhealthy choice, of choosing the unhealthy as a choice, right? And so, talking about addiction, that's the thing, right? Is there is some kind of pain, physical, like mental, whatever it is, associated with releasing the behavior that is damaging you, right? Like there's a reality, there's a chemical dependency, blah blah blah, and so the fear of letting go of that is immense, and so he keeps blind to it, blah blah blah. Anyways, but yes, like letting go of unhealthy patterns, which I think goes back to a lot of the comments that we got. The best way to accomplish that, the only way that I know, is to do life with other people, right? Inviting people to speak into my life helps me understand, or it's a barometer for me to see when I'm isolating and getting into my head and doing all these things, because other people are like, what are you talking about, fool? Like, no, it was amazing. Like you, and again, we'll go back to the damn facilitation, the cultivation crew.
Yes.
The whole time we were doing that, right? I thought it was a bomb. We're doing it live. And folks, if you want more information, drop a thumbs up and I'll give you information. But we're doing the cultivation crew, talking about facilitation skills. As we're doing it live, we had, I don't know, 12, 15 people there. And I'm thinking it's a total failure. I'm thinking that we just wasted everybody's time and people are going to want a refund and exit the community and all this stuff. Until the end, when we did takeaways and closing thoughts, everybody I was like, oh my God, this was awesome. And here's why. Because while I was facilitating and doing the jumping back and forth from screen and screen sharing and all that garbage, I couldn't see people's faces. I could only see you when whoever was speaking, I could only see their little picture would pop up on my thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's a perfect frame of kind of what we're talking about here, in that because I was isolated, I couldn't see my community. I couldn't see my people to get a gauge of whether it was good or bad. My immediate instinctual assumption was that it sucked because I couldn't see people. But the instant I got the feedback from the people, I was a total, I went from, oh, I'm going to quit, I'm never doing this again, to like, yes, we got to do more, right? Like it was a dramatic change because I was able to see the response and reaction from people. And so zoom out from that. When we're in a situation, if we are in addiction, for me, that was the primary fundamental thing that made a difference, besides not drinking or using anymore, but inviting people to speak into my life. I had to let people in. Same thing when we're running the million conversations in our head. How do we resolve that? Ask the person, let people in. When we have these coping mechanisms that may be betraying us or underserving us, those are harder to see. But if you invite people in and say, hey, I think I have a funky thing happening here, can you let me know what it looks like to you? You're going to get better faster. What do you think, Jen?
Yes. And that part of it too is a little bit of letting, this happened this week, is I was very frustrated. And because of some scenarios, kids, just life. And I felt that I was going in a place of like this. And so I made a phone call and I said, hey, let me run through what's going in my head right now. Tell me if I'm overreacting. And then I went through and said, here's what happened. Here's where I'm at. Here's what happened. Here's where I'm at. Here's what happened. Here's where I'm at. It was so crazy. This person who's also in the middle of kind of all this mix of stuff that I'm dealing with goes, oh, well, no, you're not overreacting. And I got a different story. And so if I would have known your side of all of this, my response to that person would have been different. So it's not even, it's like those circles of like influence and impact and all that. But it's like sometimes by holding on to it, we're hurting the situation, not just ourselves because of how we're dealing with it, but if we share that in a bigger conversation, it also allows other people to be aware of things that are going on and how I'm reacting, how I'm dealing with it, and you have more support. So I felt that this week specifically.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think you're the only one, Jen. We got our buddy Milo. He always brings real stuff. Michael says, not Michael, Milo, Mr. Milo Franco says, coping mechanisms are mind numbing. The alternative in my experience is become aware of your triggers. Dare to be fully present in the moment and act according to what I know to be true. What do you think about that, Jen?
Yes, 100%. Yes, yes, yes.
I love it. Solid, Mr. Milo. Thank you. And then Mr. Ron Stein says, when you're living in your head, and yes, so actually, I want to expand on this. So Ron says, when you're living in your head with negative thoughts, you should try gratitude journaling. And the way I want to expand on this is, for me, like I'm talking smack, right? Like invite people to speak into your life. Everything will be better. It's not that easy. But the progression for me was exactly what Ron just shared. I had to start with practicing gratitude. I had to so that was still an isolated situation, but I had to get a lot of reps in of being grateful, recognizing all the things that I had in my life to be grateful about. Eventually that grew, and well, amongst other practices that led me to be brave or crazy. Like at the time it felt crazy, like rather it felt stupid to invite people into my life. It felt like a really, really bad idea. But when I went back to my gratitude journal, like there were high frequency of certain people, they said something or they did something so there was like evidence that they were good people. So why not invite them into my life? Right. It was so Ron, I appreciate you sharing that tremendously. And also for the folks out there that are still apprehensive or maybe snake bit from having let people into your life and having been betrayed by them, totally understand it. So if you're stuck there, start a gratitude journal, right? Like a practice of gratitude, because we have a million bazillion. And I'll just tell you, if you've never done one today, you can write down, I am grateful for the No BS with Jen and Jess show. What do you think, Jen?
Yes, 100%. I love this conversation because again, we've talked about gratitude in a lot of different ways. That's how we show up. We serve. That is part of the reason. That's what drives us for a lot of the things we're doing. And so it made me think about control is closed. Because if I'm in control, like my hands are closed around whatever it is I'm trying to control. And if you open your hands a little bit and let go of some of that control, you allow there to be this back and forth appreciation and things like that. But you kind of close things off when you are in this control mindset. So, yes.
You know, you've heard me say this a bunch of times, that control is an illusion. And I think there's another layer. I've been thinking a lot about that. It's not necessarily that control is an illusion, because it is possible to have control over things. The illusion is that control is permanent. Right?
Or that it's the only answer, or that it's the answer.
Right. Because in order to get control of something, so like I can control my body in that I'm not going to blink. I am controlling that. I cannot control that indefinitely.
Yes. Yes, that's a great point. It's a moment in time, right? A moment in time.
Yes, but we convince ourselves. So I'm going to pick on you, Jen. When you get into your controlling response, or rather, I'll say it this way, your controlling reaction to something, and you see it going sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Do you not realize it until it's over? Or are you having like the out of body experience saying, gosh darn it, Jen, what are you doing?
I'm going to say more times than not now, it's in the moment that in the moment, I've done something and I see the reaction or I see what's happening in that moment. Before it was I'd get through and they're like they would bring it up to me and I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that. I can't I guess default to indifference anymore. I can't. Like in the moment, I will say one thing or I'll react and I can watch what's happening. And in that moment, I know that I have a choice. Two choices. I can at this point realize I've screwed up and this was not the best answer. And so then I need to either back away or I need to kind of diffuse what's happening, or I can keep pushing because I'm going to make my point. I get to make those choices.
Yep.
And one of them never ends well.
Which one, Jen?
I mean, in my mind, like at that point, it's like control. I'm in charge. I'm the adult. Whatever it is, like that. The default in my brain goes there, and it never ends well. Even if I've made my point, and I'm like, yeah, like they know. Then we've got this relationship that I now have to spend more time and be intentional about fixing or making it better because of what I just proved.
So you won, but did you win?
Yeah, I won. And it's like, I mean, like, yeah, great. And now I still have to like you said, temporary. The control was like, yes. And now I can't control how they feel. I can't control how they're going to react to me. I can't control what they're going to do next. So that control in that moment was fleeting.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Jen, for sharing that. I'm wondering if anybody out there, right? Again, you shared with me personally, and you don't have to like dump it all here on this conversation, but your control is like is that coping mechanism for you, right? And it served you well in some cases, or historically, it comes from I think, who was it that said it? Son of a gun, Heath. Was it Heath? Anyways, there's some unhealed stuff possibly.
Yeah,
and then we bring that way that we used, that this thing worked over here, so it's going to work over here, and it doesn't necessarily work. And I know for me, I've been in many situations where I'm like, stop, Jesse. But mostly when I'm with my mom, right? Like, shut up, Jesse, leave it alone. And I'm having an out of body experience, watching myself ruin a situation that really just let it go, and I don't, and so it becomes a problem.
But I have another. I mean, my example, you brought your mom. Like when I am with my brothers, and those of you that have watched any interaction, even it's like when we're together, they all have their own little buttons or their things. Okay, one of them, sarcasm. He loves sarcasm. He loves to kind of poke and whatever. The other one is an instigator, and so he will hear something here and then he'll feed into it. And then one of them is triggered by all of it. Ooh. And so I get to watch one brother over here. It's all funny. It's all fun and games. We're just playing. The other one's like, ooh, this is going to be fun. And then I got one that reacts to everything. And I literally watch it play out in front of me. And in those moments, you can see shifts and all that. And I'm just like, what is happening in front of me? But it's like this dynamic. I need to video it and like watch it because you can see all the different things that we're talking about today, all in one setting. And they're all, it's choices. And some of them, they're doing it intentionally. Some of them, they're doing it because it's their coping mechanism. Some of them, they're doing it because of trauma. And it's like in this little fishbowl, I get to watch this and understand how all of these things can like shift in just a second.
Yes. And so I think one important thing there is like the watching part. And back to kind of Ron's comment about the gratitude journaling. You can, this is kind of how I think about it, is I can watch in retrospect. Right, I can go back when I pause and find a quiet place to reflect on how I've contributed to the outcome, positive or negative. It helps me understand what I'm responding to. It helps me see how I respond and what I'm responding to. That's helpful. It's also helpful, like Steve Martin says, to invite people into our space. So Steve Martin says, don't allow yourself to go it alone. The better way out of the quicksand is to surround yourself with others willing to help. It takes humility and vulnerability, but our way is always better than my way or your way. Share the joystick. And so, another thing to consider that I've done on both ends, meaning I ask people to do it or people have asked me to serve in that capacity, is get a spotter. If you know you have a thing that like always falls apart or underperform or whatever, that's creating a negative situation, but you don't clearly understand it, or rather be honest with yourself and know that you're going to fill the gaps with self-justification, invite somebody to be a spotter so that they can tell you, hey, when this person or when this happened, this is how you responded. And this is how you contributed to it. Like, you don't get a pass. This is so, because that'll help you improve and mitigate the negative impacts of letting those coping mechanisms betray you.
Well, and Jesse, segue, because you didn't do this on purpose, but one of our components of Cultivation Crew is giving and receiving feedback. And that in itself can feed into a lot of things. And so I want to make another point, because I know we're about to wrap up. But another thing we've talked about is when we're around people, whether it's us or someone else that is working through or surviving an addiction or whatever those, kind of working through those things, how much responsibility do we have, one, to be aware of it, and two, what we're contributing to it? Can you, I know we don't have a lot of time, but I feel like it's so important, because like, it's one thing to be unaware, but once you become aware and then you make choices that then you get mad at someone else for reacting a certain way or dealing with something a certain way, like how much of that responsibility is on us?
100%. Once you're aware, I get a lot, like this one, I get a lot of reaction from this perspective. Because when you've been a victim of physical, emotional, sexual abuse, these types of things, to hear that you're responsible kind of causes a reaction of, it's your fault it happened to you. No, that's not at all what I'm talking about. At all. I've been there. What I am responsible for is my reaction to things afterwards.
Yes.
I've had a lot of things that happened in my life that I can continue to react the way I did when it first happened, that is going to hinder my growth and minimize the impact I'm going to have on the world. Or I could choose to respond to them differently. That's the responsibility. So I know that's a little deep and scary, but zoom out, easy things. I am 100%, I contribute 100% to every single win and every single fail I experience. All the time, every time. I'm responsible for my contribution. Can I control what other people say or do or contribute to the thing? No. Can I influence it? Yes. What can I control? My contribution. And so when things are stinky and work out less than what I wanted them to be, if I take ownership, because it's easy for me to say, well, Jen, the conversation would have been better if you were more vulnerable. Sure, right? It would have been better if you would have let me talk more. Like, that's me deflecting my ownership of my contribution. I could have done something differently to achieve a better outcome. And so for me, it's a matter of ownership. Me taking ownership for my contribution. When things are shit, I look at what can I do differently next time so they're less stinky. When things are awesome, I look at what did I do that made that awesome so I can do it again, instead of deflecting and blaming everything and everybody else around me. Because guess what? The more time I spend doing that, the weaker I become in terms of being able to change the outcomes that I'm seeking.
Yes. And so that's from your perspective, from the person that's dealing with the issues or the issue or the addiction or things like that. So what is my responsibility? So if I am somewhere with you and I am aware of the things that you've been dealing with and you're overcoming, okay, I'm aware of it, very aware of it. And you're very I'm going to say outspoken in that you don't need to change your behaviors because this is on me. Like you own that. But there's also a point of me being aware of the things you're dealing with, your demons, all those things. And then I go, hey, Jesse, let's go here with a group of people. And there's going to be alcohol. You absolutely have to own you're going to take a drink or you're not.
Yep.
But I could also contribute into putting an environment around you that could be conducive for you to go, oh, it'll be okay. Like some of that, people that are around, like there's another example, and I'm going to use this, is if someone is not financially responsible and you're in their life and you are dealing with them and they're not financially responsible. When you're aware of that and you continue to put funds in an account for them to continue to spend and not be responsible, that's not all their fault.
So what I'm hearing is enabling behavior.
Yes.
Right. So again, I got to take ownership for that.
Yeah.
I can create a situation to help people stay in their muck. Enabling behavior. Yeah. I don't know that you could do it, but it's very possible. We've talked about this, right? Surrounding ourselves with accomplices in our life. It's very possible, or I'll say it this way, historically, there have been people in my life that the way they treated me, interacted, and blah, 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 the things they invited me to, etc., were the perfect conditions for me to get wasted and get naked and strip and do all the things that I used to do, right? And so that one's kind of hard because I can't blame them, but they could take ownership of the fact that they were enabling my behavior. I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Right? 100%.
Is like, I know, hell, when the lockdown happened, I was like, oh my God, this is all the real evidence I needed of how peaceful my life is when I live alone. I used to get frustrated about the arguments and the fights and the negotiations about what we're going to watch, sharing space with other human beings. But the enabling, like I saw people fighting and arguing and they hated each other. It's like, okay, like, so now you can't stand living with each other. Why are you living together? Like, why have you not separated? Why have you not asked him to leave or asked her to leave? You have the means to do so. I could say, like, here, that was me taking responsibility, right? Of saying, like, why is he there? Why are you still with her? Like, these are the things that are happening. I'm just going to reflect that back to you. So my responsibility there is being a mirror to reflect back to what I actually see. Or I could be a jellyfish and say, oh, that's just how things are. Well, you're right. Like, no. Hey, dummy, you keep inviting him back. Hey, dummy, you keep inviting her back. Like, you're the one texting her at 2 o'clock in the morning. Stupid. And so, that answer your question?
Yes, no, it is. It's the two sides. We're talking about self. That's a lot of our conversation today on how we deal with things. But also we are in places around other people dealing with things. And like we can claim indifference. We can claim we didn't know, like we can claim all those things to make ourselves feel better and sleep at night.
Yep.
But you knew and there's responsibility in some of that knowledge. Yes. And we at least need to like have the conversation where you could at least go, oh yeah, like I contributed to that. I did not help this situation. We can make different choices to where we can help and we can assist and we can, do things to support those people around us.
Yes. It's like the opposite of being a bobblehead. Right? Like, yeah. And then when the shit falls apart, I knew it was going to fall apart. Well, why didn't you say anything, stupid? Like, come on, man.
Or we don't give advice, right? We don't give advice because, like, oh, what if we say something and then they do it and then they come back and blame me? Okay, then why are you there?
Share your perspective. Let people make their decision. That's the deal, right? That's it.
Yes. We had I know we had a couple of comments before. I know we're about to wrap up.
Yep. So we got Mr. Ian Smith. What's up, Ian? He says, we all have our scars, but it's a willingness to continue to improve, work on yourself, and focus on being the best version of yourself. Amen. You may get frustrated along the way, but show up and be resilient. Yes, 100%. Dr. G, great point, says, agreed. I also feel people around you often serve as gatekeepers and protectors or as encouragers in the bad enablers in behaviors. It's critical to choose those around you that support, right?
Yes.
I don't need accomplices. I need people that are going to contribute to my growth. I don't need cheerleaders. I need people that are going to challenge me. And then 2 more points. Yesenia said, indeed, Jesse, exactly. We prevent ourselves from being and doing all that we are capable of. It is easier for us to not limit ourselves when we focus on others rather than ourselves. You know, the thread that keeps coming through in these comments is inviting people in, doing it together. Ron says when his adult daughter sees herself starting to go down the rabbit hole, she calls him and he can bring her back to reality. And that's the whole point of the tribe. And the thing that we're talking about is who are you doing life with? Right? Like, who are you doing life with? You can be selective, you can curate, craft, design your life and the people around you to help you better serve the people in front of you. That's the ticket. And do we have an after party today, Jen?
We do, but can you bring Aaron's very last comment up, and then I'll do my closing thoughts too. Just because humans can become complacent to the patterns and behaviors, whether toxic or healthy, and that's, I think, a good summary of everything we've talked about today, good and bad. We're not trying to just hone on the negative, like healthy as well, and you can still get caught up in the healthy piece, and that then becomes another something that is probably hindering you. So just those are things, again, usually we just open a can of worms and go, okay, have a great day, see you later. So because we know that there's probably some things going on in your head that you could possibly want to voice, we do have an after party. So those of you that are new, after this show, we go and we do a LinkedIn audio event. So no cameras, but we are kind of just facilitators in that conversation. So this sparks usually a lot of good insight and maybe some things that are starting to ruminate in your brain. And so you can get on and you can actually speak and talk and contribute to the conversation. And Jesse, I believe you put links here, but it's also on the No BS page. And then you can click on the link. It takes you into the space. You can listen, you can jump on stage and share your insights and things like that.
Yes.
And then I'll do final thoughts, like, because I know we're already a little bit over, but final thoughts. The biggest thing that has helped me is, but what is also true?
Yeah.
Make yourself like just stop and go, okay, but what is also true? And that kind of helps sometimes reset where we are when it comes to things getting out of control.
I love it. And I'm asking myself, what is also true? I'm awesome. That's what's also true. And we're going to we get to hear your thoughts and ideas
yes.
at the after party. So y'all be cool and we'll see y'all next time.